I'm striving to get rich. That's why I always went 2 years without buying shoes and fits. Things change now. My mom hearing me with my music and she look a little proud.
Yo, what's up, world? Welcome back to the channel. APW Sports signing in, and welcome back to another Chicago Bears weekly preview. Now, I will be doing these type of videos as previewing the Bears games, as well as reacting to the Bears games after they happen, and as well as doing videos across the NFL with different storylines that happen throughout the course of this NFL season. So if you guys want more of that content, make sure you guys click that subscribe button and notification bell so you will not miss a single video that I post. I'm gonna ask you guys to do me this huge favor, and that's leave a video a like so this channel can continue to grow even more. But let's get into this Bears preview as the Bears come home for a bad loss against the LA Rams in week 1 on Sunday Night Football to take on a Cincinnati Bengals team who come into this game off a big victory at home against the Minnesota Vikings team. But the first thing I'm going to touch on is the Bears offensively. Now, the Bears offense really did not have that bad of a game last week. Andy Dalton played a very solid football game. Outside of a couple of miscues and missed throws, he really did not play that bad of a game against the Rams, especially against Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Donald, two of the more dominant defensive players that we have in this league. And the Bears offensive line really looked solid, especially in that game against the front four like the Rams really possessed. And the running game looked very good with Damian Williams and David Montgomery rushing for over 108 yards in this game. So the Bears offensive line did not look very bad. It actually looked solid. The issue coming into this game this week is the Bears at the left tackle position. Larry Burrow as well as Jason Peters both dealt with some injuries last week, and it's going to be interesting to see what this left tackle position for the Bears is going to look like this week against the Cincinnati Bengals front four that possesses Sam Hubbard and Hendrickson, who they brought in from New Orleans to help with that defense. So it's going to be interesting to see that and how the Bears are going to attack. Now, my biggest issue, I believe, with the Bears offense last week against the Rams is they were not very aggressive. Now, we all know that the Rams defensively prevent the deep ball. We all know that the Rams like for teams to run the football in that bend, not break style of defense. We understand that. But at the same point, I believe the Bears have the speed offensively to be more aggressive. You have Demir Bird with 4.3, 4.4 speed. You have Marquise Goodwin, who's an Olympic type speed and can burn. And you have Darnell Mooney with his speed as well. In this game, the Bears have to take advantage of that speed and take more shots and be more aggressive, especially with the Bengals more than likely not having Trey Waynes, who is their best corner. He is doubtful as I record this video, and it's looking more and more like Trey Waynes is not going to suit up this week for the Cincinnati Bengals. So this Bears offense, I believe they have to attack more and capitalize in different ways off of the running game that was very successful last week. Now, the Bengals front four doesn't possess the same athletes, doesn't possess the same guys as an Aaron Donald or Leonard Floyd and those guys over from the Rams. So I believe the Bears can still be successful with the running game. If Nagy chooses to stick to the running game, the Bears can be very successful in the running game with Williams and Montgomery, with the middle of the offensive line and right here Mustafa and also Daniels that were really solid up front. In this ball game, the Bears just have to be more aggressive. I think they have to utilize more of the play action to take advantage of a run game that is being very successful, and it won't be as big a pass rush, I believe, this week from the Bengals as it could have been from the Rams. So I believe Dalton can have a little bit more time to attack downfield against this Bengals defense, especially without Trey Waynes. Even though Jesse Bates, I believe, is a very good safety, and he's getting better every single season that he is in the NFL. The Bears, I believe, can take more shots against this defense than they could have against the Rams defense. And it's, I think, a very big key for the Bears to be more successful offensively. Now, we know we're going to see a Justin Fields package in this game. I think Justin Fields probably is going to play a little bit more this week than he did last week. And when he came into the game last week, the Bears had some success offensively. Of course, him scoring his very first career touchdown. And also, he made some solid throws when he come into the ball game. I believe that this Bears offense has to attack more. They have to capitalize off a running game that was very successful last week, and I believe that can be very successful this week. And you have to take advantage of the injuries to the really, really solid Bengals defense. I don't think it's going to be up to the level of the Rams defense, but this defense is not anything to sleep on. And you have to take advantage of Trae Waynes more than likely not playing this week, especially when you have a guy like Allen Robinson who can really, really play. He's, I believe, a top 10 receiver. They have to find ways to get him open, and they have to find ways to attack down the field more, especially against this Bengals defense without Trae Waynes. So the key for this game, I still think, is to run the football and continue to stick to running the football, especially with the injuries to your left tackles in Burrow and Jason Peters. They have to attack whoever comes in for Trae Waynes, assuming that he's not going to play. They have to attack more down the field and be more aggressive offensively instead of taking these quick, short routes that they took against the Rams, and they played it to the Rams' hands because the Rams play a bend but don't break type of defense. I believe the Bears have the athletes and the Bears have the personnel to take advantage against this really, really solid Bengals defense. They have the personnel to really take advantage of it. I just believe Nagy has to be more aggressive with this play calling. He has to be more aggressive attacking the ball down the field and find ways to utilize guys like Demir Burr, guys like Darnell Mooney, guys like Marquise Goodwin, who's an Olympic speed runner for Christ's sake. They have to use those guys' speed and take advantage in this ball game to be even more successful offensively and capitalize on those long drives to get touchdowns. Now, we all know the biggest problem with the Bears last week was the secondary. The secondary was not very good. And that was one of the biggest questions that I had coming into this game against the Rams, was how was the Bears secondary going to hold up? And it proved last week that it didn't hold up at all. The pass rush for the Bears has to be better to kind of offset the secondary. Khalil, Mack, I believe Sean Desai has to find ways to get him more involved, to get him more dominant. You have Akeem Hicks. Hopefully Eddie Goldman is able to go this week. Bilal Nichols. I think those two interior presence, if Eddie Goldman does not play, they have to make their presence more known in the middle so you can take that attention away from Khalil Mack. And of course, Robert Quinn has to do something. Robert Quinn has to do something this week. Now, we know the Bengals offensive line is not a very bad offensive line. I think they're better this year than they were last year, and that's based off health, getting Jonah Williams back. I believe the Bears have to use their pass rush more. They have to pass rush better than they did last week against Stafford. And especially the interior pass rush has to get home and really, really test that injury of Joe Burrow. Now, he did look very good against the Minnesota Vikings last week. The Bengals possess a very solid wide receiving core of their own. While they're young, they are still a very solid wide receiving core with Jamar Chase, who had a really solid game last week. You have T. Higgins, and you have Tyler Boyd that helped Joe Burrow in this offense. So Joe Burrow looked very good last week. He looked solid against a Minnesota Vikings defense that is known to have some aggression at times. He looked solid against that defense. And it's going to be interesting to see how these Bears corners adjust and can they rebound from a bad outing last week, especially Eddie Jackson being out of place, Tashawn Gibson really being out of place. This secondary has to play a ton better than they did last week in order for the Bears to really compete and win this football game, which I believe is very, very winnable. Eddie Jackson, Tashawn Gibson, they have to play better. Vildor, Christian, Burns, who's ever on the opposite side of Jalen Johnson, because Jalen Johnson really did not have a bad game last week. As just the other secondary members, let's just face it, they looked awful. They looked like trash. They looked like trash. We know the linebacking core played solid. Ogletree as well as Roquan Smith running all over the field. The key to this game for the Bears defensively, the pass rush has to get home in order to have that secondary. The pass rush for the Bears have to get home to have some of those secondary woes. And if the pass rush is not able to get home, which I think the Bears pass rush is more able to get home this week because the Rams offensive line was just better than this Bengals offensive line. Sean Desai has to scheme a way for this Bears pass rush to be effective. Now, the Bears against the run last week were solid. The Rams, I really didn't run the football a lot. The Bears had to play solid as well this week against the run because Joe Mixon, he's a very, very good player. He is a very, very good player, and they're probably going to use him in ways not only in the running game, but he's a very solid receiving back coming out of the backfield. So he is somebody that I think Ogletree and or Smith is going to have to account for because he can do so many things in this Bengals offense, and not to mention the wide receiving core and Joe Burrow, who played a very solid game against the Minnesota Vikings last week. The Bears have to get home on their pass rush. Their secondary has to be better, and I think in order for this Bengals offense to be slowed down, you have to find ways to take Joe Mixon out of the game, because I think Joe Mixon is a big key to this offense. I think he is the biggest key to the Bengals offense because of the things they're able to do with him in the passing game as well as the running game. I think if you kind of minimize the ways that Joe Mixon can be effective, the Bears have more of a shot to win this football game because Joe Mixon is not a very good pass protecting back. So if the Bears pass rush is able to get home, whether it's more blitzing or whether it's the front four really making their presence known, that can really hide this secondary. That can hide the secondary in course of the passing game with the Bengals offense that likes to attack down the field. The three keys for the Bears to win this game. Number one, offensively, be more aggressive. The Bears offense has to be more aggressive in the passing game this week. Number two, the pass rush has to get home. The pass rush for the Bears have to get home and get pressure on Joe Burrow. And three, minimize the effectiveness of Joe Mixon. I think if those Bears really use those three key things, they can win this game. Enough with all that said, I am going to roll with the Chicago Bears in this game. I believe the Bears can be more aggressive this week versus last week against the better Rams defense. Two, I believe Sean Desai is going to learn from the things that happened last week and find ways to utilize this pass rush, whether it's blitzing or whether it's the front four with stunts and tricks up the middle. They have to get home, and I think they will do more of that than they did last week. Joe Mixon, I think he's still going to have a solid game against the Bears, but I think the Bears are going to do just enough to kind of minimize his impact in order to win this game. So I'm going to roll with the Bears. We're going to roll with the whole team. We're going to roll with my boys, and I think they are going to win with the score of 24-17 for the Bears to get their first win this season. That is all I have for you guys today. Leave this video a like. Do you think the Bears are going to rebound back and win this game, or do you think the same happens from last week and the Bears drop to 0-2? Leave your thoughts in the comment section down below. I read my comments. So I would love to see what you guys think about the Bears going into this game against the Cincinnati Bengals. And as always, click that subscribe button and notification bell so you will not miss a single video. APW Sports signing out. Make sure you guys stay safe out there. Have a great and excellent day, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Bear down. Peace.